Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Hari
Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Hari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Jaya Raja Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Damodara Radhe Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki Grancha Srimad Bhagavatam ki Shri Kodnachai Maipur Shashi ki Shri Tulsinath Maharaj ki Shri Giridhar Lal ki Shri Nrsimhadev Bhagavan ki Shri Radha Damodara ki Nitai Gaur Premanande. We're reading from Srila Prabhupada Leela and chapters entitled At Home in Vrindavan. The health crisis seemed to pass, but Srila Prabhupada now felt he would be unable to go to New York. He asked to hear the various astrological calculations. "Let us have a laugh," he said. The readings predicted that these would be the most difficult days. For many of the devotees, Srila Prabhupada's not going to America upset their hopes of his getting better and living a long time. But Prabhupada felt he had travelled as far as he could, and now he should return to Bombay and Vrindavan. For a few days more he stayed, waiting for a clearer indication from Krishna, and he resumed going to the temple in the morning. Brahmananda Swami had come from Africa, and Srila Prabhupada watched with pleasure as heavy-set Brahmananda, the first disciple to dance for him 11 years ago in New York, rose to dance again before his spiritual master. As Brahmananda jumped up and down, dancing ecstatically, Srila Prabhupada smiled and clapped his hands. Afterwards, Tamal Krishna asked Prabhupada what he had prayed that morning as he had sat looking intently at the deities. Prabhupada replied, "I was praying to Radha Gokulananda to please engage me in the service of Shri Shri Radha Rasa Vihari." Srila Prabhupada wanted to return to India, and his desire was his servant's order. "If I survive this time," he said, "we shall do Vrindavan Parikrama. You can carry me on a palanquin." At the airport there were delays. During the wait, Tamal Krishna had earphones on Srila Prabhupada so he could listen to a tape-recorded kirtan. Srila Prabhupada slowly rocked his head listening until finally he was allowed to board the aircraft, riding in a wheelchair. Srila Prabhupada ki. Yeah. A tissue, please. Okay. So, today on the Vaishnav calendar is Dipavali and Deepdan. So this day is commemorating the return of Lord Ramachandra and Srimati Sita Devi and Sri Lakshman ji to Ayodhya, having been spent 14 years away from their devotees in Ayodhya and in exile. And at this time, when the residents of Ayodhya understood that Lord Ramachandra and Srimati Sita Devi were returning, then they celebrated that event by lighting lamps. Because so Dipavali means a collection of lamps. Sometimes Avali is translated being as a collection. Sometimes it's translated as being a row. Just like when you're traveling, if any of you have flown into Dubai, especially from London, then you see, like, out in the desert, before you come into Dubai, you see, like, the road is, you see the lights on the road. So you can imagine in Ayodhya, it wasn't just the city of Ayodhya, but it'd be also like the villages on the outskirts of Ayodhya as well. So the houses would all be lighting lamps, knowing that Lord Ramachandra was coming. And he was traveling on a pushpa rath, he was traveling on a flying flower aeroplane. So as he was approaching the city, he'd be able to see lamps lit up in the villages on the outskirts of the city, and then coming in and see all of the big collection of lamps in the city. So that's Dipavali. And because Dipavali also takes place in the month of Kartik, and in Srila Sanatana Goswami and Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami and the Hari Bhakti Vilas, and they've collected all of the different references in the Puranas and the Vaishnava Tantras and the different Vedic references as to how to celebrate the different festivals in the Vaishnava calendar. So you'll find in chapter 16 of the Hari Bhakti Vilas how to observe the Kartik Vrat, and within that Kartik Vrat is the Deep Dan, offering of lamps. So because the offering of lamps is prominent in the Kartik month, and because today is the day we commemorate the return of Lord Ramachandra, so specifically on this day, then the offering of lamps is very auspicious. And this festival was because Lord Ramachandra appeared in Treta Yuga many, many thousands of years before Krishna's appearance in Braj Bhumi. So that festival was well established in Bharatvash, in all of the towns and villages. Dipavali was a major festival day. In fact, the Dipavali festival took place over 5 days. And the third day of the festival is Dipavali. The third day is the day specifically for offering lamps, and that's the biggest of the 5 days. So on this particular day, in Vrindavan, in the village of Vrindavan, all of the residents, especially all of the residents of Nanda Maharaj's and Yashoda's household and all of their servants, then every year they would celebrate this festival. And Krishna, when Krishna was just a very young baby, then he wouldn't be involved in the festival directly. But on one particular year, when Krishna was old enough, does anyone know how old he was? When on the first year that he took part in the Dipavali festival, as far as I can remember, it's 3.5. He was 3.5 years old, because he was born on Janmashtami, so he would have been 3 about 2.5 months ago. And then on that day, all of the maid servants and the farmers' wives and all of the residents of Vrindavan, they were very excited, especially because Krishna was old enough to play a role in this festival. And I don't know exactly what that role was. Perhaps it's mentioned in the Acharya's commentaries. I don't remember reading it. Do you remember, Vrinda? No? But anyways, but they were all very excited that Krishna was considered old enough now to join the other older boys in the festival and be old enough to understand what it was about. And because of that, then that's why Mother Yashoda was a little bit concerned that all of her maidservants were busy getting ready for the festival, and therefore she was thinking that she would have to make Krishna sweets on that day because her maidservants were not very attentive to their duties. So anyway, that's just a little bit about just a little preview to the chapter. So we're going to read from Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam, this account of Krishna's first participation in the Diwali festival. By the way, it's called Diwali because in India, Over the years, the word Dipa has turned into Diya. Diya is like if you want to buy a little clay receptacle for putting a ghee lamp in, then that's called a Diya. But it's like it's a corruption of the word Deepa. So just as Deepa has become Diya, then Dipavali has become Diwali. I think it'd be nice if it became Dipavali again. I think it'd be nice if we can call it Dipavali. All right, so Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10. I'm going to read chapter 9, but first we're going to read the last verse from chapter 8 as an introduction to this pastime. Krishna Brahmana Adesham Krishna Brahmana Adesham Satyam Kartum Vraje Vibhu Satyam Kartum Vraje Vibhu Saharamo Vasangsh Chakre Saharamo Vasangsh Chakre Tesham Pritim Swalilaya Tesham Pritim Swalilaya Krishna Brahmana Adesham Satyam Katum Vraje Vibhu Saharamo Vasangsh Chakre Tesham Pritim Swalilaya Krishna Brahmana Adesham Satyam Katum Vraje Vibhu Saharamo Vasangsh Chakre Tesham Pritim Swalilaya
Krishna Brahmana Adesham Satyam Katum Vraje Vibhu Saharamana Vasham's Chakre Tesham Pritam Svalilaya Krishna Brahmana Adesham Satyam Katum Vraje Vibhu Saharamo Vasham's Chakre
Vaishnavis.
Krishna Brahmana Adesham Satyam Kartam Vraje Vibhu Saharamo Vasham's Chakre Tesham Pritam Svalilaya
Krishna, the Supreme Personality, Krishna, Brahmana, of Lord Brahma, Adesham, the order, Satyam, truthful, Kartum, to make, Vraje, in Vrajabhumi, Vrindavan. In Vrajabhumi, Vrindavan. Vibhu, the Supreme Powerful, Saharama, along with Balaram, Vasan, residing, Chakre, increased, Tesham, of all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, Pritim, the pleasure, Swalilaya, by his transcendental pastimes. Translation: thus the Supreme Personality, Krishna, along with Balaram, lived in Vrajabhumi, Vrindavan, just to substantiate the benediction of Brahma. By exhibiting different pastimes in his childhood, he increased the transcendental pleasure of Nanda and the other inhabitants of Vrindavan. Please repeat. Thus the Supreme Personality, Krishna, along with Balaram, lived in Vrajabhumi, Vrindavan, just to substantiate the benediction of Brahma. By exhibiting different pastimes in his childhood, he increased the transcendental pleasure of Nanda and the other inhabitants of Vrindavan. So, can anyone tell me what is the benediction of Brahma that's being referred to here?
This is the one where he promises Bhumi that somebody will use him to sort out the calamities on the planet.
No, it's not that one. And so it's interesting. I'm glad you mentioned that because that is in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto. That pastime is described that Bhumi, the earth in the form of a cow, approaches Lord Brahma and begs him to help her because of all of the pressure and stress she's feeling with an excessive population of demoniac rulers on the planet. So for that reason, Lord Brahma approaches Lord Vishnu on Shwetadweep, the ocean of milk. And Lord Vishnu says that he will appear to relieve the earth of this burden, and that all of the demigods should appear in the families of the Yadus to prepare for his appearance. But as we know, because we often preach that when Krishna says Paritranaya Sadanam Vinashaya Chaduskadam Dhammasanstapanataya Sambhivamaya, that Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that whenever there's a predominant rise of a religion, he appears to deliver his devotees. So Bhumi Devi is certainly a devotee of Krishna, and so in that sense, Lord Vishnu promises Brahma that he'll appear. But we often say, when we're speaking on that verse, that Krishna doesn't need to appear to protect his devotees because he's all powerful, so he can perform that act of protection just by his will and through the agency of the demigods, or through whatever agency, through the agency of the three modes of material nature, he can protect the devotees. So, but quite often we hear when devotees talk about this, they say that the real reason Krishna came was to reciprocate with the desires of his devotees, to have his association, and in this way to increase their attraction for him, and also to make his sweet pastimes with his devotees better known, so that other living entities can also be attracted to Krishna's pastimes with his intimate devotees. So this is the benediction that's being talked about here, because it's described that Brahma had asked two of the Vasus, Drona and Dara, Drona was one of the Vasus, one of the sons of Lord Brahma, to increase the progeny on the planet. And immediately Drona and his wife Tara said, "Please permit us to be born on the planet Earth, so that after our appearance, the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller and Master of all planets, will also appear and spread devotional service, the ultimate goal of life, so that those born in this material world may very easily be delivered from the miserable condition of materialistic life by accepting this devotional service." Because they were Nityasiddha devotees of the Lord who they appeared as Nanda and Yashoda, and specifically they had this intense relish for associating with Krishna as a child, and they wanted all the other living entities who were trapped in material illusion to develop that attraction for Krishna. So they were very keen and that Lord Brahma would grant them this benediction, not just for their own pleasure, but also so that others can develop this pure devotional service. So it's nice. I hadn't remembered reading that before. So it's just, even though we used to read Krishna book every week and have a quiz, and we used to I used to read Krishna book a lot, but there's so much in these pastimes to relish and to appreciate. So that's like a prelude to this pastime, that Nanda and Yashoda, even though they're completely absorbed in their rasa with Krishna, but in their heart they're also desiring that others can relish those pastimes as well. So we're going to read chapter 9, which is Mother Yashoda binds Lord Krishna. So I'm going to read through the whole chapter. Starting with the introduction. While Mother Yashoda was allowing Krishna to drink her breast milk, she was forced to stop because she saw the milk pan boiling over on the oven. The maidservants being engaged in other business, she stopped allowing Krishna to drink from her breast and immediately attended to the overflowing milk pan. So as we remember, the other maidservants the other business that the maidservants were engaged in was what? What were the other maidservants? Preparing for Diwali. It was actually a Mother Yashoda in Shiva Swami's book, Janmada Janani. He suggests that Mother Yashoda had already guessed that they were going to be inattentive before she started thinking about making the sweets, because the gopis were getting Mother Yashoda ready for the festival, and she could perceive that they weren't concentrating in the way that they normally concentrated on getting her ready. Krishna became very angry because of his mother's behavior and devised a means for breaking the pots of yogurt. Because he created this disturbance, Mother Yashoda decided to bind him. These incidents are described in this chapter. One day, the maidservants being engaged in other work, Mother Yashoda was churning the yogurt into butter herself. And in the meantime, Krishna came and requested her to allow him to suck her breast milk. Of course, Mother Yashoda immediately allowed him to do so. But then she saw that the hot milk on the oven was boiling over, and therefore she immediately stopped allowing Krishna to drink the milk of her breast and went to stop the milk on the oven from overflowing. Krishna, however, having been interrupted in his business of sucking the breast, was very angry. He took a piece of stone, broke the churning pot, and entered a room where he began to eat the freshly churned butter. When Mother Yashoda, after attending to the overflowing milk, returned and saw the pot broken, she could understand that this was the work of Krishna, and therefore she went to search for him. When she entered the room, she saw Krishna standing on the ulukala, a large mortar for grinding spices. Having turned the mortar upside down, he was stealing butter hanging from a swing and was distributing the butter to the monkeys. As soon as Krishna saw that his mother had come, he immediately began to run away, and Mother Yashoda began to follow him. After going some distance, Mother Yashoda was able to catch Krishna, who, because of his offense, was crying. Mother Yashoda, of course, tried to punish Krishna if he acted that way again, and she decided to bind him with rope. Unfortunately, when the time came to knot the rope with which she wanted to bind him was short by a distance equal to the width of 2 fingers. When she made the rope longer by adding another rope, she again saw that it was short by 2 fingers. Again and again she tried, and again she found the rope too short by 2 fingers. Thus she became very tired, and Krishna, seeing his affectionate mother so tired, allowed himself to be bound. Now, being compassionate, he did not show her his unlimited potency. After Mother Yashoda bound Krishna and became engaged in other household affairs, Krishna observed 2 Yamala Arjun trees, which were actually Nalakuvara and Manigriva, 2 sons of Kuvera, who had been condemned by Narada Muni to become trees. Krishna, by his mercy, now began to proceed toward the trees to fulfill the desire of Narada Muni. Shri Shukavacha Ekata Krihadasishu Yashodanandagehini Kamantarani Yuktasu Nimamanta Swayam Dadi Yani Yaniya Gitani Tadbala Charitani Cha Dadi Nimantane Kale Smaranti Tanya Gayata. Translation. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, one day when Mother Yashoda saw that all the maidservants were engaged in other household affairs, she personally began to churn the yogurt. While churning, she remembered the childish activities of Krishna, and in her own way she composed songs and enjoyed singing to herself about all those activities. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, quoting from the Vaishnava Toshani of Srila Sanatana Goswami, says that the incident of Krishna's breaking the pot of yogurt and being bound by Mother Yashoda took place on the Dipavali day, or Deepa Malika. I don't know what that means, Malika, in relationship to Deepa Malika. If anyone wants to do a little research today, they can find out what that means, unless anyone already knows.
No, but I know what Dipavali means. So Deepa means lamp and Valley means numerous.
Yeah. But I was thinking of Malik. How is Malika related to Deepa? That's what I was asking if anyone knows that. Yeah, Avali means numerous, yeah. Avali means a collection. It can mean like a collection or a string, like a long string or a row. Even today in India, this festival is generally celebrated very gorgeously in the month of Kartik by fireworks and lights, especially in Bombay. It is to be understood that among all the cows of Nanda Maharaj, several of Mother Yashoda's cows ate only grasses so flavorful that the grasses would automatically flavor the milk. Mother Yashoda wanted to collect the milk from these cows, make it into yogurt and churn it into butter personally, since she thought that this child Krishna was going to the houses of neighborhood gopas and gopis to steal butter, because he did not like the milk and yogurt ordinarily prepared. So it wasn't just, Mother Yashoda was thinking like that because Krishna had been doing that for quite some time, actually. He'd been going to the houses of the other gopis and stealing their butter. And Mother Yashoda regularly was getting complaints that Krishna was doing that. So she had good reason to want to make the very, very best sweets for Krishna. So Nanda Maharaj arranged that the milk that she made the sweets from was from the very, very best cows, and also those cows were given the best grass. So Mother Yashoda wanted to make sweets that were so good that Krishna would not be inclined to go elsewhere. But Krishna actually wanted his mother to get angry with him, because nowhere else in any of Krishna's pastimes outside of Vrindavan does anyone get angry with Krishna. Not at least Krishna's devotees. Of course, the demons get angry with Krishna, but Krishna doesn't reciprocate with the demons in an intimate way. So when Krishna gets angry, he's trying to increase the intensity of the paternal mellow that Mother Yashoda is displaying to him. He understands everything about her and all of her intentions, but because Krishna really appreciates her love more than the love of any other mothers that he ever has in all of his other pastimes, then he really wants to experience the limit of that love. So he knows so he's pushing her to the limit of her intensity of that love in various ways. So his becoming angry and acting wanting to be more and more naughty. He's really he's kind of testing his mother's love, even though he knows in one sense it's unlimited, that there's no limit to it. Then he just so that's really on there. Actually, because I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for today, and basically what I'm speaking is from what I've been hearing from different classes and lectures on this pastime over the last few weeks, and also in previous years. So I'm referring to classes from Sri Ramaswamy Maharaj and Niranjan Maharaj and Bhakti Vikash Maharaj and Indradyumna Maharaj. But on this pastime. And would anyone else like to say anything at this point about these pastimes, about this particular section?
About the two fingers,
Sorry?
The two fingers.
Yeah, we'll get on to that. While churning the butter, Mother Yashoda was singing about the childhood activities of Krishna. It was formerly a custom that if one wanted to remember something constantly, he would transform it into poetry or have this done by a professional poet. It appears that Mother Yashoda did not want to forget Krishna's activities at any time. Therefore, she poeticized all of Krishna's childhood activities, such as the killing of Putana, Hagasura, Shakatasura, and Trinavarta, and while churning the butter, sang about these activities in poetical form. This should be the practice of persons eager to remain Krishna conscious 24 hours a day. This incident shows how Krishna conscious Mother Yashoda was. To stay in Krishna consciousness, we should follow such persons. That's a nice instruction. So there's Srila Jiva Goswami in his Gopal Champu. He's composed a song which he says is that song. I mean, he's not saying that he knows what Mother Yashoda sang, but he's composed a song that Mother Yashoda sings while she's churning yogurt. So it'd be a nice one to learn. It's not an easy, I've tried it myself, it's not an easy one. But it's very, it's kind of like, the rhythm of it is, I've heard it elsewhere that the rhythm of these songs are like the rhythm of the churning of the butter, which is kind of like, it's not like a metrical, it's not like the shlokas in the Bhagavad Gita, for example. It's not sort of symmetrical in its nature. It's kind of a little bit sort of offbeat. And it's very, very attractive. Okay. So, I'll not read the Sanskrit now, I'll just go through. Next text, 3. Dressed in a saffron yellow sari, with a belt tied about her full hips, Mother Yashoda pulled on the churning rope, laboring considerably. Her bangles and earrings moving and vibrating and her whole body shaking. Because of her intense love for her child, her breasts were wet with milk. Her face, with its very beautiful eyebrows, was wet with perspiration, and malati flowers were falling from her hair. Okay, well, Shukadev Goswami's composed this verse, and it's describing Mother Yashoda laboring and pulling on the churning rope. And I've just noticed that this verse is like a nice kind of rhythmic verse, so we'll read this one actually. Shomam vasa pratukatitate bibrati sutranadam putra sneha snutakutta yugam jatakam pamsu sabru rajavakasha shramabhujakalat kankana kandalecha swinam vaktram kabara vigalan maliti niyamamanta. So when, that's not a coincidence that verse is like, out of the other verses in this chapter, then that one's like the one that's got the most rhythm to it in that sense, because when the devotees are composing these verses, they're actually trying to evoke the mood of the pastime through the rhythm of the verse. And some of the gopis were particularly expert in that art of spontaneously composing verses in different ragas to please Krishna in his pastimes. Purport: anyone who desires to be Krishna conscious in motherly affection or parental affection should contemplate the bodily features of Mother Yashoda. It is not that one should desire to become like Yashoda, for this is Mayavada. Either in parental affection or conjugal love, friendship or servitorship, in any way, we must follow in the footsteps of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, not try to become like them. Therefore, this description is provided here. Advanced devotees must cherish this description, always thinking of Mother Yashoda's features, how she was dressed, how she was working and perspiring, how beautifully the flowers were arranged in her hair, and so on. One should take advantage of the full description provided here by thinking of Mother Yashoda in maternal affection for Krishna. Do you want to recite that verse from the Nectar of Instructions, text 8, isn't it? And so what's the translation?
Yes, as well advice one should fully utilize one's time in mostly hearing and chanting what the Lord's pastimes, qualities, form. In this way, one should recite and meditate and serve Krishna under the guidance of his devotees who are deeply attached to his devotion service.
Yes, so in the Nectar of Instruction, text 8, Srila Prabhupada describes this process of like entering from like sadhana bhakti into raganuga bhakti, and then becoming attracted to the activities of a particular devotee of Krishna in a particular rasa. And even though we may not be on that platform ourselves, but still we can become excited by, not excited, Prabhupada said not to use that word. That's okay. Nobody won't, but it's nice. Prabhupada gave me a nice warning. Sorry? Okay, excitement is not very auspicious. Okay, enthusiastic. Yeah. So yeah, we can be enthusiastic to hear how that attraction will develop as we practice our sadhana dutifully, but not just dutifully, but also with to nourish our sadhana by hearing about devotees who are on a higher level. So this is a very wonderful pastime to read for that reason. Tamstanya kama asadyam matnantim jananim hari grihitva darimantanam nyasedat pritim avahan. While Mother Yashoda was churning butter, Lord Krishna, desiring to drink the milk of her breast, appeared before her. And in order to increase her transcendental pleasure, he caught hold of the churning rod and began to prevent her from churning. Purport: Krishna was sleeping within the room. As soon as he got up, he became hungry and went to his mother. Wanting to stop her from churning and drink the milk of her breasts, he stopped her from moving the churning rod. So Krishna had been asleep all night. Krishna and Mother Yashoda had a room right next to the kitchen in her quarters. So Mother Yashoda had kind of didn't want to disturb Krishna. She'd gone to start cooking, and Krishna was still pretending to be asleep. But Tam ankamarudam apayayatstanam snehasnutam sasmitam ikshate mukam achiptamutsrijya javena sayayav utsityamane payasi twadisrite. Mother Yashoda then embraced Krishna, allowed him to sit down on her lap, and began to look upon the face of the Lord with great love and affection. Because of her intense affection, milk was flowing from her breast. But when she saw that the milk pan on the oven was boiling over, she immediately left her son to take care of the overflowing milk, although the child was not yet fully satisfied with drinking the milk of his mother's breast. Purport: everything in the household affairs of Mother Yashoda was meant for Krishna. Although Krishna was drinking the breast milk of Mother Yashoda, when she saw that the milk pan in the kitchen was overflowing, she had to take care of it immediately, and thus she left her son, who then became very angry, not having been fully satisfied with drinking the milk of her breast. Sometimes one must take care of more than one item of important business for the same purpose. Therefore, Mother Yashoda was not unjust when she left her son to take care of the overflowing milk. On the platform of love and affection, it is the duty of the devotee to do one thing first and other things later. The proper intuition by which to do this is given by Krishna. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam tadami bali yogam tam yena mama priyantite. In Krishna consciousness, everything is dynamic. Krishna guides the devotee in what to do first and what to do next on the platform of absolute truth. That verse is from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 10. And the translation is, yeah. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the intelligence by which they can come to me. And then the next verse, which is nice, the next verse is relevant. Anyone know the next verse? Go on, Ashish. Say, Ashish. Ham bhajami jam tamaha. Nashayashyami bhavasto jnanadipena bhashvata. I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So, as I was when I was thinking about preparing for this class today, I was thinking of how the festival of Diwali could be relevant to our sadhana. So this verse is a nice connection. Jnana dipena bhashvata. Jnana dipena. This means the shining lamp of knowledge. And so, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So, in that way, we can understand that our ability to perform activities that are pleasing to Krishna when in a difficult situation, our ability to do that will increase by eliminating the gaps between our service. So, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, this means we're constantly thinking about how to please Krishna. So in the beginning, that may not be out of love. We may not be thinking about how to please Krishna out of love. We may be thinking just how to please Krishna out of duty, or we may not even be thinking about how to please Krishna, but we may be just performing our duty as is being given to us by Krishna's devotees. So this is why the spiritual master is essential to receive instructions from the spiritual master and meditate on the instructions of the spiritual master. Because the spiritual master enables us to act as if we were on that platform of love just by performing duties as given by the spiritual master, which may appear to be almost like mundane duties. But because they're being given to us by someone who has love for Krishna, and because we're serving that devotee who has love for Krishna, then we become connected to that loving relationship. So by constantly engaging in service to the spiritual master, then we are connected to that loving relationship. And in that way, our heart becomes illuminated by jnana dipena, by the lamp of knowledge. Okay, I'm going to stop there because now 8:30. So because my heart is illumined by the clock of knowledge, the clock of like Prabhupada Pranaprabhu and HG Krishna. Even if the clock's not working, it's 8:30 when the devotees leave the temple. So anyway, I recommend you read this chapter today, Canto 10, Chapter 9. Mother Yashoda binds Lord Krishna. And yes, and we can meditate on how we can light up our consciousness so that Krishna's devotees are attracted to our association. Not that we're more advanced than other devotees, but naturally devotees are instructed by their spiritual masters to associate with devotees. So, irrespective of whether someone is senior to us or junior to us, we can understand that one way we can gain more good association is by lighting some jnana deeps in our heart by reading Krishna's pastimes, meditating on the meaning, and always trying to serve the instructions of the spiritual master. So essentially, I was just thinking also there's in the Mantra Tika of Gopal Guru Goswami, who I like, Srila Satchidananda Swami recommends that meditation when we're chanting our japa. So in the eighth verse of that Mantra Tika, it's He Hare Swaseva Adishaya. So this means, oh Hare, oh Srimati Radharani, please guide me in your service. So And just as Lord Ramachandra was guided by the Dipavali, so we're asking for guidelines, like we're asking from guidelines from Srimati Radharani in our japa, so that we can stay on course in our devotional service. So the nature of Sanskrit is that it facilitates remembrance of different shastras just from one word. You can just remember like different shastras and how they're all connected. It facilitates remembrance. It facilitates contemplation, and so in this way, by discussing with each other, then we can tie together all of the different things that we've studied over the years. Like sometimes, even if we've been devotees for many, many years, we may not be able to try to bring together all of the things we've heard and we've learned. But if we can learn this, how to like just look at verses and just take one word, and then this one word can help us really assimilate all of the knowledge that we've gained. So this is one reason why festivals are very special days. Festivals allow us to do this, to like really focus on the pastime and focus on the teachings, and it reignites much of the things that we may think that we've forgotten. But it's a very powerful process. And that was the desire of Drona and Dara, that by hearing about these pastimes, then the devotion of those persons who'd forgotten Krishna could be once rekindled. Okay, so I'll stop there. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Dipavali Mahamohotsava ki, Shri Shri Radha Damadara ki, Shri Shri Yashoda Damadara ki, Shri Shri Kodanatai Maipo Shashi ki, Shri Tulsinath Maharaj ki, Shri Giridhari Lal ki, Shri Nrsimhadev Bhagwan ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaura Premanandi.
His Grace Javat Vasi ki.
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki.